Ready Check Radio. What's up, Internet? Welcome to the Relic Grind. Ready Check Radio's Final Fantasy XIV Square Enix podcast. Square Enix podcast. Squeenix. Squenix. SE. That company. That podcast. Squeenix. Welcome. I'm your host, Mike Byrne. Thank you for tuning in. Hope you're joining us live here, twitch.tv/ReadyCheckRadio. We'll make it real easy for you, though, if you're watching this on YouTube. Just head to that website at the bottom of your screen right now, Ready Check Radio. You can find all of our socials there, including Twitch. But it is Thursday. It is 7 p.m. Eastern, so we're here once again doing the show, and we've got a lot of stuff to cover today. A couple interviews that Yoshi-P did. One was like the day after last week's show, so you may have talked about this or seen it talked about elsewhere. That's fine. We'll talk about it here. Another one's brand new yesterday, I think, or the day before. And we've got some other Square Enix, SE, Squeenix, Squenix, whatever, news to cover as well. So a chock full show for you. Joining me to go over all of the information. You know him, you love him, you want more of him, Mr. Chris Montoya, a.k.a. Tarkoth. How are you, sir?
Considering the state the country's in, I'm doing fabulous.
Yeah, welcome to election night number 3.
Whee!
Yeah, election night
It
number
just
3.
keeps rolling.
We'll give you a little bit of a distraction here tonight.
That's what we hope.
Also on the line, Mr. Adam Lane, a.k.a. Kronos. What's up, sir?
How's it going? Yeah, I'm ready to talk about something else. So Final Fantasy. Good break from that.
I'm ready to talk about anything. Just
Anything else.
anything. It's just been election night here in the United States for 3 days now, and it's probably going to be election night for a little while longer. So yeah, step aside from all of the hubbub and craziness of the world and enjoy some Square chat. Little programming note for you. Next week is actually starting tomorrow. We have our normal stream tomorrow night that I'll be doing at 7 p.m. Eastern. We're going to be doing a lot of Final Fantasy TCG talk tomorrow. The new Opus 12 set officially drops tomorrow. Those cards are already in hand. There are 6 booster boxes obtained yesterday that we are ready to crack open and go through on stream as we officially take them out of the box and immediately put one copy of everything, regular and foil, in binders. You'll get to watch all the excitingness. We'll talk about all of the interesting cards as we go, kind of like we did with pre-release packs a few days ago. Hope you'll join us for that. Then, of course, we'll move to other games as well. Then next week is going to be busy. So Tuesday, we've got the Xbox dropping. Shipment already confirmed on that on my side. So we'll be doing... I'm going to open it up as soon as it gets here and do all the initial updating and get it all there. And then I'm going to repackage it all so that we can do a little unbox, see how it comes, but not sit there and force you to watch it updating itself. And then we're going to play some Xbox stuff on Tuesday. Then Thursday, we're going to do the same thing with the PlayStation 5. When that comes on Thursday, we'll do a whole unbox. We'll do a setup. For that one, we have games already selected. We'll be playing Demon's Souls. We'll be playing Godfall, which is one I'm really looking forward to. We'll mess around with Sackboy 2, Sackboy Adventures. Xbox, I have no idea what we're going to play because there isn't anything terribly exciting that's exclusive to them. On launch day. They do have some interesting ones coming up, but not on launch day. So, that might just be Game Pass. We'll just pick games at random. But, yeah, so it's going to be a busy week. Last programming note. Next week, Mr. Tarkoth, you have the week off.
Yep.
Mr. Kronos there, you will be here with me next week. We will also be bringing in a special guest from the Final Fantasy TCG community. Since we're doing this show today and the cards don't technically come out tomorrow, we'll talk more about cards on next week's show, so plan on the first 15, 20 minutes. We're not going to go through the whole set or anything. We're going to take a look and talk about the multi-element cards because that's new to the game with this Opus set. We'll go through some of the legends, talk about our favorites, some of them that are interesting, and we'll talk about a few cards that might potentially be meta shifting. Won't be the whole show, so for those of you that aren't into TCG, you just bear with us for a few minutes while we geek out, and then we'll get to some regular other Square Enix news. But if you're looking to learn how to play, you want to ask questions about advanced play or anything like that, by all means, tomorrow is the night you probably want to come while we're opening booster boxes. I'm more than happy to answer any questions. There are some people that I know in chat that are very well informed too. I'm a judge. Not officially because of COVID, but I have passed the judging tests and all that. I just didn't get to be monitored at an event because of COVID to obtain my title. Some of the others that are in chat too. Tons of resources. We'll have a lot of fun. All right. That being said, gentlemen, let's get to the actual news. Let's start with some Final Fantasy XIV. First off, let's just very quickly talk about the Final Fantasy XIV solid state drive that is releasing. So there is an actual SSD that is Final Fantasy XIV branded. This seems a little weird. Like, I get the idea. I definitely can get the idea. But yeah, this one's weird to me. I'm all for cross promotion, and I might buy one, but there are some concerns I have with it too. Kronos, what's your initial impression of any MMO, besides your favorite one, having a cross-promotion with an officially branded SSD?
Yeah, I can't say this really does anything for me. I remember they spent like an absurdly long time on like a left-handed mouse for a while, and that seemed to be like a strange decision. I mean, more power to them if they make money off of it, but I can't really see myself being too excited about an SSD that just has a stamped logo on it. Like,
I mean, it is.
I can't imagine it's much different than that, right? I mean,
it is external, so you get to see the logo. I mean,
sure, I guess I could just buy like a sticker, right? It's like, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I'm sure people will buy it. A lot of people like Final Fantasy. I mean, it's just like a way for them to make money. It's fine. I can't really pretend to be hype about it though.
Tarkoth, this one's a little weird, and I think there's an aspect of it to me that feels a little outdated, because it's 500 gigs. Yeah, that's a sizable SSD. Don't get me wrong, but that is not by any stretch a large SSD. And that would it's just the Final Fantasy XIV file is pretty big by itself. You're still going to have plenty of room on this if you want to do something else. That's totally fine. But I honestly thought, hey, why is it only 500 gigs? Why doesn't that clock in at like 1 terabyte at least?
That's a standard nowadays, right? Like even the PlayStation 5, I find is kind of weird at its 865 gigabytes. Why not just do
minus
1
the
terabyte
operating system, by the way.
Minus the operating system, so even lower than that. But yeah, the 500 gigs seems a little weird. Maybe they're designing it just so you put just Final Fantasy on it and any future expansions and whatnot. Weird, just weird.
It also clocks in pretty expensive when you compare it to other
that's
items.
The other part of it.
It's about 115 USD if you want it. That is, if you look at Destructoid, they said that's a little over industry standard. I actually think that's quite a fair amount over industry standard when you're talking about externals, considering that you could go and get internals for $50, right? That are 500 gigabyte. And then externals, they're like $80 maybe ish. I don't know. That's a lot for branding. I think.
And there's not much branding on it.
Yeah, it's just the logo.
Just a little white stamp.
Yeah, it's the Meteor logo, except it's done in white, or the Dalamud logo, and Final Fantasy XIV Online. I don't know. It does. I think this is a cool feature. See, Stick saying Samsung Eternals are roughly 90. Yeah, to me, 115 versus 90 is not a little over industry standard. That's practically 25 extra % on top of the industry standards for it. While this may not be a huge deal here in the United States, again, depending on your local internet service provider, I can see this being a bigger deal overseas in Japan and other areas where they are giving you an app for a quick transfer of your FF14 file from your hard drive, your existing hard drive, to your SSD. I think that's kind of neat, but I'm not buying this.
I'm not buying it either. It's $25 to put a white stamp on it. No, thank you.
Just save yourself $100, buy a decal, a nice $15 decal, slap it on the side of your tower.
Yep. Or $2 sticker.
I get a sticker. Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. I should mention that since it is external, it is using USB 3.2 Gen 1. There is no power adapter requirement on it, however. So speeds should be fine, although your initial write onto it will probably be a little slower than, obviously, if you had an internal SSD. Just a weird crossover. Like, fine. Final Fantasy wants to get its name on everything. I get it, but this one's just bizarre to me. You know what we could really use, guys? Let's stamp some logos on hard drives and solid-state drives and sell them.
Okay. I'm waiting for the Cactuar-inspired bundles of cucumbers. Let's go.
Lockwood says, sorry, sticking with my 40-gig Final Fantasy XI hard drive. Yeah, but even that wasn't branded. God, I remember bringing that home on release day, plugging that into the PS2. All right, so let's get to some interviews because Naoki Yoshida doing a lot of chatting. Yoshi-P, one of my favorite people in game development as a whole, aside from Final Fantasy XIV and all things Final Fantasy being just near and dear to my heart here. So from the gamer.com, Yoshi-P did an interview with Cyan Mayer. I apologize if I mispronounced that, but credit where due. And the overwhelming topic on this one was crossover events or collaborations or whatever you want to call them, and we'll get into what Yoshi-P calls them as a whole, whether that be Yokai Watch, Monster Hunter, any of those types of events coming into Final Fantasy XIV. And honestly, on my initial read of this one, Adam, I thought this was actually I thought it was going to be a boring ass interview. I was like, who cares? Who cares? Like, oh yeah, we did a crossover. Woo. Let's talk about it. But I actually found this very, very interesting because this is kind of like the stuff you don't hear a lot about when you talk to a game developer. Besides like, hey, I hear you're doing a crossover. Tell us about it. All right, next question. This was like their whole methodology, mindset going into a crossover, developing a crossover, analyzing the data afterwards. It was a lot more interesting than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, and I think that's because of how like seriously they take these, honestly.
Yeah.
Like if you've ever played another game, like I played like fighting games and stuff, and your crossover is like, here's a skin, or like, oh, do this one thing one time, and here's this. Whereas like in 14, I mean, things like Nier and Monster Hunter are still in the game.
Yeah,
we can do those whenever we want. And so it's kind of cool to like hear how they go through the process of doing those things, and you can just tell from watching live letters and stuff how involved they are with the other teams in the process. I mean, Yoko Taro, for example, is I don't even know how many times that guy's been on there like talking with Yoshi-P just about the Nier stuff, and he's obviously a big impact to the stuff that they do for Nier in the game, and it's really obvious how close they worked with the Monster Hunter team as well with that crossover. So I mean, it's a lot of cool stuff. And I'm really excited to see like what more stuff they do down the pipe. Because I mean, obviously, if they keep putting this time and love into these, they're always going to be at least pretty good.
Yeah.
So
and he makes that distinction. You bring up the skins and things like that. Yoshi-P Tarkoth makes a clear distinction that he calls these crossovers while he calls other types of things that other games may do collaborations, where they just, Fortnite adding NFL skins. He doesn't consider that to be a crossover because he looks at these more in the context of there's a distinction between the two rather than just add some new costumes and a hairstyle. What we do is a full crossover where our Final Fantasy XIV team works with XYZ team to develop consistent storylines on both sides of the fence, to weave these things in together. It's a project done in parallel rather than what he refers to as a collaboration basically being a licensing play.
Yeah, it's about integration. The ability to take this property and integrate it and put it into their story and make it work with 14 so that it's not feeling jarring when you're doing this. Nier feels a little bit jarring because it's a unique animal. But the stuff like the Ivalice crossover that was done splendidly, and they continuing on with it to build more story off of Damaska and that property.
Yeah, and story is the big key there, right? I mean,
Yep.
That's not to say that all the crossovers are great.
No,
not
really.
I don't know about you gentlemen, but Yokai Watch can go fuck itself. I just
you didn't like getting all those minions. You weren't a fan of having.
I love having all the minions, and that was the only thing I did. I was like, let's see. The first time it came, because we've now had that 3 times, right? But the first time it came, I was like, okay, how do we get the weapons?
You know what's worse? You know what's worse? What's worse is getting the mounts.
Well, yeah. That's the only reason I actually looked at getting the weapons, because I got the Whisper a Go for the minions, and then the Whisper a Go is the one for doing all of it, and now there's another mount in there as well. But I remember the first time it came up, I was like, okay, 2 mounts of me. All right, well, I'm going to get those minions anyway. That's cool. I'll get that mount. How do I get this mount? Oh, I got to get the weapons. Okay. How do I get the weapons? Yeah, you're out of your goddamn mind. Next event. I went and got the Black Mage weapon. Then in the latest one, went and got the Red Mage weapon, or in the second one, whenever it was, got the Red Mage weapon, and then I was done. I'm out. So I don't think they're all great, but I think go ahead.
This one, the third re-release, with it coming in 5.3 and the expansion of the trial, those new players coming in, this gives them an event to do. Hey, you're gonna get all these minions, you can get all these glamour weapons. You just got to do fates, which you might be doing with leveling all these new jobs anyways. I think it was a great idea to bring that back. I do.
From a new player perspective, I'm laughing at Mike's reaction.
I know. Thump it.
Hey guys, we've got the most beast mode trial for new players that have never played our game. We're going to give you the game. We're going to give you the first expansion. Go and do it all. And if you want it, the second and third expansion, dude, we got those on discount. No problem. It's beast. Hundreds of hours. Go do your thing. Oh, by the way, we're running a promotion where you can go and grind the shit out of things and be bored to tears. I'm sorry. I can't go with you on this one, Dark.
It's not that bad anymore. The drop rate's actually much more reasonable. They really nerfed it.
Yeah, I know, but it is still at the end of the day just boring ass grinding.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the middle, I think, because it's like anything that's just like, hey, do some fates. It's typically not very interesting, sadly.
Anytime, although, here's where I'm totally don't make sense, right? When that was the alternate way, if you didn't want to do Bozja, I was like, that is fantastic. 65 fates?
Your Honor,
sign me up.
Your Honor, there's an argument in your flaw in your argument.
You don't want to do Bozja. How about 65 fates and 6 dungeons? Where do I sign, baby? No problem. I also understand that there's a cultural thing, right? Yokai Watch is just massive in Japan, and maybe not as big here. So I don't have that like IP invested interest too. Anyway, speaking of like, why would Final Fantasy do a promotion with Yokai Watch? Like that seems weird. They do actually in this interview talk a little bit about why they do crossovers at all. And one of the reasons I just love Yoshi-P on stuff like this. They think, one, that it expands the player base in both franchises. We'll talk about that in a second. I want to talk about the first one first, which is, we think it'll grow the team. And we just like working with developers that we're fans of, that we admire, that we love. And so why not do a crossover so that we get to work with them? And I'm like, that is awesome. That is awesome. Tarkoth, you had something there? Sorry.
No, I was just saying, I agree.
He does point out that it also breaks up the monotony. And I think this is something even though I've been in the business of software design and covering this type of stuff for a decade plus now, I never really thought about. The grind, the day-to-day, gets boring for us as players, but that also gets boring for the devs when everything is the same. All right, we got a next patch. Let's get these stories. Let's get these dungeons. Let's do this. Okay, next patch. We got the story. We got the dungeons. Then we do this. Okay, next patch. That gets boring on their side, too, which as a software developer I can appreciate, but ironically, never thought about as far as like Blizzard or Square Enix. this breaks it up for them too, Kronos, which I was like, that's actually really fucking smart.
Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, that's what I would want to do if I was making games. I mean, I'd want to do stuff with the IPs that I really like. So the fact that they get to do that is pretty cool. And I bet it makes their job exciting, you know? And coming from the software industry as well, when you get into that grind where you're doing the same thing over and over and over again, and you're not really doing anything new, it really helps to break up that monotony, like you said. So it makes total sense.
It's super cool. And then it was like, oh yeah, and we just want to work with teams that we love. We don't care what game it is. We'll find a way to make it work. And of course, the player base expansion, not only for Final Fantasy XIV, but also whatever game they're doing a crossover with. They talked about this is not, we don't do the item exchange here. And specifically, Tarkov, they went into the Yorha Dark Apocalypse event and talked a little bit about, like the Nier team doing the story, and then the Final Fantasy team, they make sure to support that team to make sure that the story works within the context of 14, while the 14 team is on the other side doing like battle and boss scenarios. And Yoshi-P apparently only gets involved at the end of this. Just like, show me the end product and I'll approve it. Or not approve it, because each of these games is treated differently. So like even their process of doing a crossover event is not the same between crossover events.
Sure, because different creators are going to want to have different levels of control over their IP and what they've created. So I can understand that. I mean, with Monster Hunter, you got Capcom involved. They're going to want to have their say in it. So you can't have the same process for every single crossover event. What I like about Dark Apocalypse is that it made me want to go play Nier again. And I did for a little bit, but then I got bogged down with other things. But it put that sense and that thing in the back of your mind is like, you know what? This was a really cool game. I should really get back to it.
Yeah, and what you can kind of see in the Monster Hunter one, I think more so than everything else, is how much when you play the Monster Hunter trial, it feels like Monster Hunter, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I think that's really cool, and I hope they do that more. Where it's like, I mean, Nier is cool. It's a 24-man raid. It's obviously got the Nier skin on it, and there are things that are very recognizable from Nier. And like you said, it'll make you want to go play Nier again if you've played the game before.
Yeah, I was just going to point out, and I've said it on this show, is Monster Hunter, I totally agree with you. It feels very Monster Hunter-ish. Nier, I disagree. Not disagree with you, but disagree with the concept. I think you and I both feel the same. It's having played Nier, we're like, okay, yeah, this just makes me want to go play Nier. Yeah. And it's because they can't emulate a lot of that stuff in an MMORPG environment. I'm not slamming them. It's just, if you've played Nier, you're kind of like, shit, I just want to go play Nier now.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite part personally about the Nier stuff is the music.
Yeah, oh
yeah.
Music
I could just
good.
sit in those 24 mans for hours, if we're dying and wiping. But
I want all those veteran rules.
Yeah, the Monster Hunter one for me is just really special because, like, I mean, I like both series, and the fact that like it just feels like they nailed it.
Yeah,
and I think that's because of like what you're talking about, where it's obviously they're getting a lot of input from Capcom, and then you can also tell on the other side of the crossover when Monster Hunter did their Behemoth fight that they took a lot of input from Square, and it's really cool. So
now, when working with Final Fantasy titles, this gets a little easier, right? Because the teams it's still working with totally different teams. The Lightning event for 13, the Noctis event for 15, all these different Final Fantasy events. That's easier to pull off, but they're still working with totally separate teams. It does kind of create, and he alludes to this idea, if you will, of Final Fantasy XIV maybe being the cohesive universe that links all the Final Fantasies. And Yoshi-P was not claiming that that's what it is. He was just like kind of speculating, like, I think you could look at it that way as we do more and more and more of these, that, hey, we're already in alternate dimensions or alternate, places other than the source. We're in the first and the second and all that jazz. We've already got this kind of multiverse. Omega came from somewhere and has been to these universes to create these, approximations of these characters for that whole raid sequence. So it does kind of set 14 up as a potential safe haven to unite all these disparate Final Fantasy titles that take place in different universes and different timelines. And I was like, that's kind of a neat outlook on this. I don't know how much I'd be like, yeah, but I like that.
kind of hope they keep that vague.
Yeah.
Right? Like how it is now, where it's like just kind of there and you're like, cool, that's a fan servicey thing.
Agree.
But I think that's my biggest issue with Nier is they tried to like continue on this story that was kind of there. And maybe that's more so the Nier team than anything else trying to do that. But like, it just doesn't, I don't know. I really appreciate going into Nier and all the aesthetics of Nier and the music and the boss fights are really fun and all the mechanics are cool. But it's just, I don't know. I can't get behind continuing that story. And that's the one thing with the evil Easter eggs, as much as I love them, continuing tactics, man, that's a big to do.
Yeah.
And if you even like try to pretend like you're continuing that's like, and they kind of did, and it wasn't bad or anything, but it's just like, to me, that feels weird when you're like, oh, like what if for some reason they were like, okay, we're going to continue Noctis's story. Now he's in Fit 14, you know, like that would be kind of weird. So I kind of like it being more vague than more direct, if that makes sense.
No, I'm totally with you. That's why I said, you know, I kind of like the idea as a concept, but I don't know if I would want it like a fully fleshed out canon-esque explanation
exactly.
for all the things. I am 100% with you on that one. Tarkov, it sounded like you were the same when you were chiming in there.
Yeah, I agree with you. They still got to make the stories work for Final Fantasy XIV, so again, it doesn't feel jarring. But yeah, if they keep it more vague, some of the stuff just doesn't work. Like for the evilist stuff, those kids were just annoying, especially that Ramza. I was just like, just shut up. And then the Nier stuff is just, it seems out of place, but they're trying to make it work. And maybe
trying to get booted off of this show. Throwing shit at Ramza? Are you trying to get booted off of this show?
The kid Ramza, not the Ramza we know and love and hold dear to our hearts. The a-hole. Am I off? Am I cut? Am I done?
100%. You aren't on next week's show. Refer to programming note earlier. Okay, now that we're all up to speed,
go get my teeth or something.
This did bring up the question of why would you repeat events then? If you're always looking for the next crossover, in Yoshi-P's case, like why would you repeat an event? Not counting things like Monster Hunter and stuff that are consistently in the game, but Yokai Watch, as an example, has now been in the game 3 different times and leaves for a period in between 3 of those times. They kind of said it makes sense to bring some of them back. Yokai Watch again being the example. I just have to believe that's more of a Japanese thing. It certainly doesn't make sense to always be in the game. I probably could have lived without it the second and third time, but you know, we're not the only audience for the game. The other point that I thought was more salient of a point was that they reiterate them. They do go back and review these and go, you know, we kind of didn't hit this. I want to do this again and change some things to make them better, which, you know, it's really easy to just think they probably do a crossover and then it's done. They never look at it again. But no, they even look at these completed things and say, okay, if we ever do it again, here's what we want to do with this one. It's one of those things that you don't really think about. And I thought the whole interview just kept reminding me of how serious they take it, Kronos. And you mentioned this right off the top, that this is, it might be a throwaway 3-week event, but it's really taken differently behind the scenes, which ends up making it most of the time a success.
I think that's what's so great about the devs in this game in general. It just feels like they care. And I think that's really obvious when you watch them do interviews like this and the live letters and stuff. And that means a lot when you get to the end product. It kind of shows that off. And I mean, it's a great thing. And I kind of like them bringing back certain things too. I think even though we're not really into the Yokai Watch, that one kind of made sense. I kind of hope they bring back the 13 and the 15 events at some point so people have access to those items. But other than that, I mean, I welcome them all pretty much. I'll try anything. If it has a mount, I'll probably do it.
And to your point, Targoth, I will concede, because even Yoshi-P did bring up that trial download enticement is a part of these, no matter what I may personally think of an individual event.
It's a big deal for them. That 5.3 drop and expanding it to all the way through Heaven's Ward is a big deal for Square. You got to get these people in here. And that's also part of why the Realm Reborn New Game Plus, that whole redone experience, was also a big deal. They're trying to make it easier and more fun for people to come in, and why not give an event while they're doing it too?
Yeah, not to go on a huge sidetrack, but that Heavensward thing was huge because, like,
Yep.
I mean, literally anybody that even mentions the game now, I always go, "Hey, do you know it's free to play till level 60 now?"
Yeah.
Yep.
It's like
I'm a show for it.
Yeah, and I don't even really feel like I do it on purpose. I just happen to do it because I like the game so much that I'm like, hey, you could play it for free. First expansion.
Yeah, I mean, there's easily, depending on how like voraciously you eat up all the content, there's easily 30 to 130 hours of content in just a Realm Reborn and Heavensward, depending on what you want to do and what pace you're going to do it at. So you have plenty of time before you will spend a dime if you want to check it out. Encourage you to. In fact, here's my friend's code. No, I'm just kidding. This was cool too. This was another thing I didn't think about. They look at these crossovers too as a safe haven. Like, you can't fuck it up. They're like, even if the event is terrible, like they totally miss the mark. Final Fantasy XIV fans will still like Final Fantasy and play and just say that crossover sucked. And the Nier fans, if that's the one that you're talking about, the Nier fans are like, I didn't like that event that they put in Final Fantasy XIV, but Nier's badass. They want them to succeed, obviously, so that like Nier players might be more willing to check out 14 and vice versa. But like, there is no fail point here. If the event just isn't good, people are still fans of their own favorite game out of the two, which was a neat kind of look at their mindset going into these, developing these. Oh my. Anyway,
good stuff.
We talked about on this show, I think it was last week, Tarkoth, I think it was you that was talking, making some type of comparison. Chat is very quiet today. Yeah, we're gonna ask them a direct question in a second. They're just lulled by just the eloquence that is happening from the three of us today. I think it was last week, maybe the week before. You talked about Blizzard and World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy and.
Yes, I did.
Yoshi-P was asked if you could do any collaboration, any crossover, in Yoshi-P's words, who would it be and why? And his answer was, quote, do you mean just in terms of my personal aspiration? Diablo or World of Warcraft, because I am a Blizzard fanboy. Like, just decreed, there it is. I don't think we would ever see it, but it would be badass. And Tark, I'm going to give you the first chance to react to this because you literally mentioned a potential Final Fantasy XIV, World of Warcraft, or Diablo crossover on a previous show.
If you can't tell, I'm so excited. Just make it happen, Yoshi. Just make it happen. I've played WoW. I've been spending the last almost better part of a decade on Final Fantasy XIV, but oh my god, that'd be so awesome. Thancred and Thrall together, like interacting, that would be so sweet. Give it to me.
You
look less than impressed, Kronos.
I didn't play. I haven't played a lot of WoW, so I mean, like I said, if there was a bout, I would do it. But it would actually be pretty cool though. Like if they were able to somehow pull that off, it would be really cool. And I'm sure a lot of people would be happy because there's a lot of crossover between those two games for sure. Like a lot of people that I play with have played both or have played one at some point in time. So it would make a lot of sense. I just worry about the logistics of it.
Yeah, obviously there would be expenses, right? Because you got licensing and stuff. So let's set that aside for a second. The other thing I think that makes this a little more challenging than a typical crossover is you would be doing a crossover with a paid subscription-based MMORPG and a paid subscription-based MMORPG. And just quite honestly, there aren't that many Mike Burns in the world that will pay 2 subs at once. For 2 MMORPGs. So, I mean, yeah, you're literally competing for the exact same, not all that growing audience. So, I mean, potential logistics might be a little bit. I actually think the Diablo one intrigues me a little more than a crossover with World of Warcraft.
Put that on October for horror.
Yeah, well, that too. But for the reasons I just gave on the whole MMO and MMO crossover and both being sub-based, I think there's some challenges besides just paying and making it happen. But I also think Diablo probably fits better in the 14 world or a Diablo-based storyline, maybe based around Necromancer or something like that, than trying to shoehorn why World of Warcraft characters would be running around in Eorzea, Kronos.
Yeah, the funny thing is like if you were able to do it, I don't even think you'd have to justify story-wise. you could just create some portal, and everybody's gonna be perfectly fine with it. And I think if they could just get past everything else, like I don't even think they would need to worry. I mean, obviously they will worry about it because that's what the team does.
Just all of a sudden, a dark portal appears in South Shroud.
Took the words out of my mouth.
Yeah, I mean, you could do it. Yeah, I agree with you though on the Diablo thing too. I think I would probably rather see that, but maybe that's just because I've played a lot more Diablo than WoW. But I think it would be cool. Either way, I think it would be cool for the games as a whole. And I'd be really impressed if they were able to do it.
Yeah, and Styx, I think I agree with you only because Blizzard is owned by Activision now. If we were talking about the Blizzard of 10 years ago, if we were going to talk about the Blizzard of 10 years ago, I think this would be far more likely to be possible than it would be now. I don't think Activision's going to want to actively promote, like I said, a subscription-based fantasy MMORPG in their subscription-based MMO RPG. Tark, I'll let you go since you said you wanted to chime in there.
Oh, Mystics nailed it. She took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say, Blizzard 10 years ago before the merger, this probably could have happened, but with Activision Blizzard, they're not going to, they want their money.
Lockwood.
They want their record profits.
Activision would want a Call of Duty crossover before WoW at this point.
Oh, God, that would be hilarious.
I had a mount, I'd do it.
No, thank you.
Here's one that might be surprising for you that you're definitely not going to get, at least not anytime soon. Kingdom Hearts. Not going to get a Kingdom Hearts one. Because
that'd be rough.
Square Enix only owns a portion of that license, not the entire thing. And the other one is, of course, Disney. So that'd be pretty tough. You wouldn't think...
I think a Blizzard crossover is more likely than Kingdom Hearts.
Absolutely, yeah. But upon first inspection, you'd be like, well, they already own half of it. How hard would it be to say, hey, Disney, let's promote it by doing this? But yeah, apparently that's one that is challenging for them. All right, so before we leave the part of crossovers and chat, this is where you come in too as well. I mean, they could do Kingdom Hearts. Square fully owns the original characters. No, they don't. That is not correct, Zista. Disney owns characters like Sora, not Square Enix. They do a mutual consultation with each other, but that's more out of courtesy than actual legal having to do so. Yep. Chat, this is your part to chime in too. I want to know your favorite Final Fantasy XIV crossover. Kronos, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, if it wasn't obvious enough, it's the Monster Hunter one. I just think it was designed so well, and and playing both games and then doing both sides on both games, it was really awesome just to be able to do. Plus, you give me a Rathalos mount, I'm gonna do it. So,
Tarkov?
Monster Hunter best implemented, and again, I like Kronos did both halves of it. Logged into Monster Hunter, and Behemoth was a beast of a fight. And yeah, again, if it has a minion, I'm gonna do it. So,
wow. Huh. Well, I was. Now I feel like I gotta pick a different one.
No, just speak truth. Speak truth in these times.
Yeah, I'll go with Monster Hunter. I mean, it was so good. Like it felt great as a Final Fantasy thing. It felt great as a Monster Hunter thing. Like just whichever angle I looked at it as, I don't look at it like I do Nier, where I'm like, this is really cool, but this is Nier inside Final Fantasy, not Nier.
Yeah.
And I don't have that feeling with the Monster Hunter one. Granted, the fight still has the MMORPG Final Fantasy XIV mechanics of hotbars and stuff like that, but it's done in just what I think is a little more of creative a way to try and hold on to as much Monster Hunter as they can without breaking things. I just think it was very, very well done. Ferris says Garo was goodish, but PvP is shite. You're right. You are absolutely right.
The thing about Garo is kind of just like a skin thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you were
that was
doing
more collaboration.
Yeah, you were
than
doing like the
crossover.
PvP content already in the game just to get Garu's stuff. It did have mounts. I did do it.
Yeah,
Like I have the mounts.
Sticks chiming in Final
but
Fantasy XV just for the mount. While I agree the Regalia mount is awesome, I hated the 15 crossover event. To me, by far, as if any of these really make sense, right? This is just me being stupid, I guess. Again, it's not like any of them are like, this makes perfect lore sense. This fits. Look, the Yokai watch, they're all over the place. That one just felt really kind of... That one felt like to me, like they rushed it a little bit. Because it was just like really jarring why all of a sudden Noctis was here. Hi, what's up, buddy? But
and wasn't it like 2 years
awesome.
after the game released?
No, I'm talking about rushing the actual, not getting the event into the game. I'm talking about the rushing of the actual development of it.
Gotcha.
It just didn't feel as fleshed out as some of the other crossover events as we've had.
Did you do the Garuda thing in 15?
Yeah. I did.
That actually wasn't. That was fine.
Yeah, I thought it was all right. That was
kind of cool.
Yeah, it's not my favorite, but that was the weakest for me. I even put Yokai Watch above that just because I got minions, a lot of them.
See, there you go.
What do you mean see? See, it's not that bad.
It's not that bad.
Fishing with Noctis should have been a
17
thing.
minions.
Yeah.
Bam.
Yeah, it should have. In another interview, this one with MMORPG.com, they sat down with Yoshi-P, author Victoria Rose, so credit where due. This time, though, they weren't talking about collaborations or crossovers. They talked about COVID-19, they talked about lore, and then Yoshi-P kind of like went on this, here's some tips to level crafting. Okay. So if you wondered like how much of an impact, we talked on the show previously that like Square Enix itself was saying, hey, the after effects of COVID, you're going to see those coming up. While it doesn't look like development-wise and finance-wise we were hugely impacted, you're going to see those effects coming up. Looking more at the person level of things than the monetary level of things, the impact of COVID has almost been completely mitigated when it comes to the Final Fantasy XIV development team, which I that was a nice little update to get from Yoshi-P. And right now, about 90% of the staff work from home, and development is about 95, a little greater than 95% of pre-COVID development as far as meeting deadlines and targets. That's a pretty quick mitigation. I'm not surprised that 90% of the staff is working from home. I don't think any of us are going to be surprised by that, but I am surprised that they caught up with just really the only delay worth noting or worth speaking about here was the delay to 5.3. And then it seems like they're okay again. They were able to transition this pretty damn quickly when you think about it, Kronos.
Yeah, I agree, and I think the fact that they're basically back on track now.
Yeah.
Like before the Save It interview came out, like I mean, the fact that we know 5.4 is going to be like early December, it's pretty crazy to me. So it's really cool to see how fast they were able to turn things around and do it the right way, and still kind of put out good content.
Yeah, and reach Tarkov pre-COVID developmental levels again at this quickly. Not just being caught up, but to resume at over a 95% development level like nothing ever happened. I mean, that's crazy to me that it was that fast. I was anticipating more of like the next few patches, instead of being like between that 3 and 4 month mark, being between the 4 and 5 month mark while things kind of adjusted. And maybe that will still be the case, but at least they're operating in a capacity that means that doesn't necessarily have to be the case.
Yeah, 95% with just 2 months delay. It's pretty impressive. That and the fact that not only shifting everybody to home, but you got to get these secure connections and enough bandwidth to access the servers at headquarters. So it's a pretty impressive feat that they pulled and still managed to get us where we're at. I still think that they're not fully, and they did say 95%, but at Bozja, that usually would have came out about 6 weeks after patch. That came out 8 weeks.
Yeah.
So there's still some lingering stuff, but I think that can be expected with how things are going.
So if you liked and you thought Yoshi-P was just adorable like Faye did for being a Blizzard fanboy, wait until you hear this quote. I just love this man. I have for a very long time, before A Realm Reborn even came out. I just agree with him on so much. I'm going to read you. I'm not even going to tell you what this is about. I'm sure you'll pick it up. I'm just going to read you the entire quote. I don't want to shortchange this one at all because I think this is very important. Quote from Yoshi-P. With the threat of COVID-19 still causing some very serious issues across the globe, I decided to reduce the amount of promotional activities we are engaging in for the time being. I felt it would be inappropriate to use the situation we are in to encourage people to stay home as some sort of stepping stone to getting them into the game. If a game that I loved did something like this, I would feel a bit disappointed. I'm sure you can extrapolate that the question was regarding if all of us are homebound and more people are playing games and things like this, why aren't you running any big promotional events to try and entice people in? And that is exactly his response. I mean, if you ever wanted like a gamer to be in charge of and a decent human being to be in charge of something that is making your company multi-millions of dollars, I would pick Yoshi-P over anybody on the planet right now if I was in that type of hiring, Kronos. I mean, this is just that's so human, and I it's almost sad that like something like just being a decent human being and thinking about people and what you do in a way like this should be recognized, because it just should be the default position, but it just isn't. And so this is really refreshing. And yeah, I'm done gushing. I'll turn it over to you, Kronos.
Yeah, I have a ton of respect for the guy. That's why, like, even when it was like hinted at that he was working on 16 in some way, I was already excited. And the fact that now you know he's got to be a big part of that makes me even more excited for the game. I mean, he's obviously the right guy for this job. It's insane how good he is, and he's just a good person. He's a great person that's great at his job. And I think it's really awesome that I just kind of stumbled into this game that he's running. And he gives me a reason to continue to play, honestly. Like, I have nothing but respect for the man. And the fact that he said something like this, I mean, you'd be surprised. Not a lot of people are saying stuff like this nowadays. You know, everybody just wants to make their dime and move on. And it seems like he just cares. So
now, he did go on to say, Tarkov, that he has enjoyed some of the things that we as players are doing in-game to promote the game. He said, you know, it's just great watching content creators like, you know, this show and, you know, people that do machinima type stuff on YouTube and community events in their free companies and stuff. Like, he was like, they're growing the game. He was like, I don't want to do this, and we don't have to do this. And the community is the one, you know, during a slower development cycle, still getting people to come in and play the game. And he does like, even though he's on the Japanese servers most of the time, so it's sometimes challenging, he does like peeping around the internet and seeing what we're doing. He did enjoy Rubber Ninja eating 999 eggs. For example, if you don't know what we're talking about, you have to look that up. That is tremendous. Just type in Google Rubber Ninja 999 eggs and you will have a blast. He talked about Japanese players doing some holiday events in game where they like totally remodeled whole housing districts in coordination with each other for Japanese holidays. So he loves watching that type of stuff play out.
The community is just awesome. I mean, I'm one of those people that, you know, wants to spread it word of mouth. People are asking me during, you know, full lockdown, you know, oh, this game looks pretty cool, you know, like, get into it. There's a free trial coming up. There's a new patch, gonna have a new event. So I'm one of those people that was promoting and shilling for it, you know, even though I'm not getting paid. Because I love this game. I love the community. There are trolls like every game, but we do so many good things. And that 999 eggs thing, it's just a guy eating eggs in game, and it just made this whole spectacle event. It was just amazing.
Yeah. It's just humans are
That's what he's doing.
Humans are really dumb sometimes. We're not very bright. when it comes down to it. We're just, Adam, we're not smart. Like, I bet you can't eat 100 or 999 virtual eggs. I bet you I can. All right, I'm going to stand in Limsa and eat 999 virtual eggs. And then just people started showing up to watch an animated 3D model eat 999 eggs. We are not smart. We are not smart when it comes down to it. He does go on in this interview, by the way, to give you new crafters or gatherers, more crafting, some advice, particularly because it can be expensive. There was nothing really there that I thought was like really worth talking about besides the fact that he says, hey, during crafting, level the corresponding gatherer at the same time and take your time. You don't have to be, 70, 80 overnight. Take your time, and you're not going to spend money that way. If you don't want to take your time, you're going to spend money. And he does kind of sign that off with just being like, that's real life, isn't it? Like, you take your time, and you won't spend money. Not want to take your time, you're going to have to spend money. So,
yeah, you're going to power level, you're going to put the resources into that power leveling. That's kind of, I thought that was common sense, but hey.
So he does
give an interview question
he
about
signs off with the interview talking about Mahjong of all things. And that's because a quick match feature was mentioned on a live stream or a live letter. And that is going to be coming. But so great for you Mahjong players. I thought was more interesting, though, in the sign-off was he does tease what he calls a big Gold Saucer update. Excuse me. Yoshi-P says, anyway, we will continue to update Dome and Mahjong in future patches, and we are actually making plans for another large-scale gameplay content for the Gold Saucer. Now, I wonder what we will bring to you next. Like that's his full quote. I'm not adding the speculation on the bottom of that. Yoshi-P is teasing the speculation on the bottom of that. A large-scale gameplay content for the Gold Saucer. We already got Chocobo racing, so like some of the bigger guesses like that might be off the table. Where do you think we could look to see a large-scale gameplay content for the Gold Saucer, Kronos?
I mean, the community's been like kind of hyping up the Blitzball thing, right?
Yes.
I feel like that's what some people want. I don't know how the hell it's gonna work. I'd like to see it. It'd be cool, I guess. I'll play it. But I think that's. I feel like that's what he's hitting at.
I feel like Kronos this episode has been nothing but. If they add a mount, I'll do it.
They need to add new mounts to the MGP store.
That's like my motto for playing 14. Basically, it's like
they add a mount.
No, I mean, I've done. I'm not kidding when I tell you I've done pretty much, or at least attempted everything in this game. Like I've like maxed out in Chocobo racing. God help me, I don't know why. I did Lords of Verminion for a while, Triple Triad.
As I'm sure you can imagine, I did a lot of Lords of Verminion.
Oh, you probably got me crushed in that, I'm sure.
The only one that I don't have is the win 25 tournaments achievement one. That's the only one I don't have because it's almost like my playing schedule, it's almost impossible to get into those and actually have the necessary number of people to have it fire and complete. So I'm like, yeah, that one. But all the rest, I have them. All the achievement ones.
I mean, I've even played Mahjong. I have the orchestrion role for Mahjong. I learned how to play it because of 14. So yeah, I mean, I'd definitely be about playing it, but it feels like that's what he's hitting at. I don't know, large scale gameplay content for it feels like Blitzball.
Tark?
And it feels like it's going to be multiplayer somehow.
Blitzball.
I mean, obviously, I kind of thought the same, but then I was like, how does Blitzball really fit into the Gold Saucer? Like, if we were betting on Blitzball, okay, like that kind of fits, but like actually going in there and playing Blitzball, I don't know. But then you sit there and go, where the hell else would it go? Where else would they put it?
Nowhere else.
Yeah, it's got to go in the Gold Saucer. So I don't know. Large-scale gameplay content. It can't be something small and stupid, or you don't call it large-scale gameplay content specific to the Golden Saucer. Everybody wants Blitzball. Lockwood brings up snowboarding. Maybe, but I just...
Yeah, it's a mini game.
Yeah, it's... I don't see what it could be besides Blitzball, and that just makes me interested to see how it's implemented within the context of the gold saucer. So we'll see. We'll see.
And just have your crafters build a Blitzball arena or something on the side.
Oh my God, yeah.
6.0 crafting. You got to build the Blitzball arena, and by the end of the expansion.
Yeah, let's see which server actually gets to play Blitzball first.
Oh God, please don't, dude. That would be terrible. Oh God. People are gonna be server transferring so they could be like world first Blitzball players.
God, what a nightmare. I kind of want it because I don't care.
He just wants the chaos.
I do. Sometimes I just want to watch Eorzea burn.
Highest ranked crafters for the Blitzball arenas get a rank S gold.
Jace, that's why he brought up crafting in this interview.
Oh no. Oh man.
All right, signing out of 14. Let's wrap it up with a few other Square Enix news tidbits. Outriders had a tech spotlight that aired this morning. It was their 4th one. Remember, that game is delayed until February of 2021. So they've been doing some previews and answering questions and things like that. This is not a live service. They made that expressly clear over and over and over again, and they particularly did in this demonstration today too. They did a Techromancer preview, a little like walkthrough of the entire class. They showed off their Endgame, which looks compelling and in-depth for a game that is trying to do the Destiny 2 type gameplay without being a live service. They're very like, everything's in the box, everything's in the box, everything's in the box. And I kind of want to go, why the fuck didn't you do that for Avengers? Maybe, maybe just something like that, Kronos. Maybe just to do something like what you're doing with this other thing. I actually am really, really looking forward to this game. I'm not generally into shooters, but I do enjoy Destiny quite a bit, Destiny 2. And I'm looking forward to this. I was kind of bummed when it got delayed. So I was watching this morning and enjoying what I was seeing as far as endgame gameplay and a reiteration of no microtransactions. It's not built on that. It's not built as a game as a service. And they confirmed full crossplay capability and free upgrade from current to next gen if you choose to do that route too. And I know neither of you are terribly excited about this. I know, Tarkoth, you're looking forward to it, but it's not like a must-have. And Kronos, I think you're just kind of whatever. It's not really your cup of tea. But watching through some of this stuff, has it changed your impression? Are you more, I want to play a Techromancer, something fierce. It's more of a support role. There's 4 classes to choose from if you don't like Techromancer. But I really looking forward to this. Tarkoth, does it pump you up a little more, maybe?
With this video, I watched the whole thing. I was at about a 6. I'm at about a 7 now. That Techromancer looks pretty sweet. And I keep saying it about the live service games. Put out a complete package, and that's what they're doing with this game. And I'm loving it. And I kind of feel good, like Mythic Plus vibes from this end game progression system that they got going.
Yeah, very. Because there is a whole, your character goes to level 30, your weapons can go all the way up to level 50. You can customize the difficulty. There is a path for it, of culmination. So it's not just like kind of what unfortunately Avengers is doing right now, where it's like, hey, you got these 6 missions, just keep beating your brains against these 6 missions. While eventually it will lead to repetition. It's just that type of game. It doesn't seem to be as shortchanged as maybe Avengers Endgame was at launch here. I'm just really, really looking forward to this one. Kind of impressive. I love the visual aesthetic of the game. It's got that like dark look, Kronos, without being drab, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, actually, but the more I've looked into this game since you've talked about it and stuff, it makes me a little bit more interested. I wouldn't say that I'm probably as hyped as y'all are, but listening to you talk about it, and then the fact that if everything's actually there on launch, that makes me pretty happy for any game, to be honest.
Isn't that sad? Isn't that just a sad fucking state
maybe I'm just
affairs?
A grumpy
if
old
we could
man
just
now.
Have all the stuff in the game when it launched, that'd be great. What a world! What a world!
So yeah, I mean,
Many...
I can see myself. The more we hype this up here, I can see myself maybe playing this by the time it comes out.
Well, I will tell you, even though there are 4 classes, it is only 3-person parties. There just happens to be 3 of us on this panel. That's all I'm saying.
That sounds like a stream in the making.
It does sound like a stream in the making. Other Square Enix news, Final Fantasy IX is getting a physical copy on the Nintendo Switch in Asia, kind of like the Final Fantasy VII/8 Twin Pack did. That eventually released outside of Asia, but initially it was Asia only. Final Fantasy IX now getting the same treatment. We know it has a release date, November 27th. I assume we will see this in other regions, just like the double pack did at some point, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Probably, yeah.
I will totally buy it, although I do have to show you this. That is just simply atrocious.
Yeah, the box art looks terrible.
Yeah,
it looks really... They just took the original box art and like turned it.
I think that's the graphics from this old strategy guide, for crying out loud.
It is. It's exactly what it is, yeah.
That just looks awful. Not to say that the 7/8 dual pack looked any better, right? That was just basically a slide on each of those games too, but that just looks awful. Come on. Give me some mono art, or, well, not a mono for 9. Yeah. That makes sense that it wouldn't be, sorry. But give me something.
I'll always take a mono art.
Yeah. Targoth, you've been streaming Dragon Quest 11 a couple of streams. How are you digging it so far, by the way, since that's totally first run for you?
I think, what did I say? It's good DQ fun.
Yeah, which I turned around and said, that is the dodge if I've ever seen one, because it totally does not answer the question that I asked behind the scenes the other day on, are you enjoying it?
Here we go. This is the thing, though. Dragon Quest has a pretty predictable formula. You got a kooky cast of characters. You got turn-based battles. The visuals are really, really good. It's Dragon Quest. I mean, if you've played Dragon Quest before, you know what you're gonna get.
Particularly with 11, and I did warn you on that it doesn't break any like new ground story-wise or anything. It just does Dragon Quest very well, Dragon Questy.
Yeah,
and I was okay with that, but as a first-timer to the game, I wanted your opinion. Like, are you okay with that, or is that just, hey, I've seen this all before, I don't want to play this game for the 11th time?
No. I got just 6 hours in, so I've gotten like 2 main big story beats in. I'm enjoying it, and I can't wait to play it again. I wish I could play more of it, but I gotta wait for my blocks on Ready Check Raideo. Even people that were watching were like, "This game is beautiful. I could get into this game." So I'm happy that I'm promoting it, and it's a great game. I can't wait to see a little bit more of it. I only got 1 other character, so I don't have that big diverse cast of characters quite yet that I was talking about.
Right.
But I know it's coming. And I need to try out the auto battler because I've been doing everything manually. But I'm having fun with it, and I can't wait to keep going with it.
We did get Dragon Quest Fest, or DQX Fest 2020 did air, and Yuji Horii teased a bunch of potential announcements for next year. Now, remember, next year is the 35th anniversary of Dragon Quest. So there were, like, they didn't tease what they were, but just said there's a lot to talk about next year when it comes to Dragon Quest. And just real briefly, Kronos, we've got Infinity Stash, Dragon Quest, The Adventure of Dai. That was announced earlier this year as an action RPG based on the manga. Dragon Quest XII, we know those preparations were underway last year. Dragon Quest, a new HD title, the new DQ Monsters title. We still talked about on the show before, could we see Dragon Quest X come west at some point? There's plenty of room for them to make some bigger Dragon Quest announcements, and it looks like the 35th anniversary next year in 2021 is going to be when we can expect to hear some of them.
I mean, yeah, 35 is a pretty big number. I'm sure you're going to get probably more than just a couple. Probably going to get a bunch of them.
I hope so.
I
hope so.
Get a re-release in HD and repackage and put it on the Switch or whatnot. I'd be stoked.
Well, we do have later this year the Switch version coming out for other platforms in the definitive package of Dragon Quest XI. So I don't know if you knew that. So this is the collector set, but the Dragon Quest XI definitive, or Dragon Quest XI S, I think it's called, the definitive one, that's coming out for the first time for Xbox, but it's also coming out for PlayStation, and it is the Switch version of the game, not the original PlayStation 4 version of the game. So some improvements there. You know, I played the original PS4 release when I was streaming it before Tark's stream started going. You're playing the PS4 or are you playing the Switch?
PS4.
PS4.
I had already dropped money on it, and I wasn't going to drop it.
No, it totally makes sense. But if you haven't gotten it yet, you may want to wait until December.
Yeah.
That way you can pick up what is generally considered the better version of the game. And then it has additional stuff in it as well because of the definitive packaging.
Have they said anything about giving maybe a price discount to upgrade people that have already purchased it?
No, I would imagine that they wouldn't because they are adding things to the game. So, no, not that I'm aware of. If I'm wrong, then somebody can correct me. I don't care. We talked about Bravely Default 2 on the show before. We do have a release date for that. It is not 2020 anymore. That got pushed into 2021. Also, February the 26th. So Bravely Default 2 and Outriders in February 2021. And finally, before Love It or Leave It, there was apparently, Kronos, a pretty big Final Fantasy VII sequence starring Tifa that apparently, after reading through the Final Fantasy VII remake material Ultimania, which I can't wait until it's translated in English, please, details a whole big Tifa scene that sets up a scenario that sets up a lot of her backstory and gets into some of her character development, gives us more on Wedge and I'm sorry, Barrett and Marlene and Jesse, and that was apparently cut, didn't make it. So my question for you is it DLC? Or is it going to be in part 2? Maybe it was just cut because it didn't quite fit, and we'll see it in part 2.
I don't know if we're going to get either of those. Maybe. Maybe. I don't know if they've even planned on doing any DLC for this game, but that'd be cool. My gut tells me that you're probably just never going to see this.
Really?
And I mean, that's kind of what my gut says. I would love to be pleasantly surprised. It's because I think from what I read is it takes place like after Cloud falls.
Yeah.
So it's like, while she's like, and I feel like if you put that in part 2, that would be a little jarring because then you're like flashing back to some sequence that like it's going to feel out of place. It's going to feel really weird because you want to keep pushing forward. The only flashback that really needs to happen in part 2 is like, going over Sephiroth and Nibelheim and stuff.
Yeah.
But DLC would make sense. I can maybe see it being like a little DLC segment, but I mean, how long would that even be, and how much would that cost?
And would there
I don't
be
know.
gameplay really? I mean, how do you even put that in there?
It would just be Tifa and Barrett, really.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, my gut tells me you just won't ever see this.
Tark,
yeah, probably just like more around the bar area, I would assume.
Tark, you agree? We're probably never going to see this.
Yeah, it's not coming. I'll take any Final Fantasy VII remake content. The game's amazing.
Put me down for $2 DLC then. I'll be different than the two of you. 10 years from now, we'll see it as $2 DLC.
If it's that cheap, that'd be cool.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to.
Sure.
I agree with you. I don't think we're going to see it. But put me down as a prediction that we'll see it as DLC, just to be different from the two of you, since I ended up going Monster Hunter anyway, and I still feel bad about it. Let's slide over, finish things up with Love It or Leave It. Huzzah!
Yeah.
Everybody's favorite segment of the show, where we take something Square Enix has done, something they've made, something they do, some series they have, anything from the world of Square Enix, and we let you know whether we love it and it's allowed to stay or leave it. Just throw it off the plate and let it land in the slums. We don't even care. And just because, again, last week we did a series, just because today we're going to do a series 2 does not mean that we won't revisit items in this series on future shows. I bring this up because we are getting a physical, parts of the world, I should say, are getting a partnership deal between EO and Square Enix where they will produce a physical copy, a collector's physical copy of Hitman 3, not slated for release in the United States, at least not yet. But if you're in parts of Europe and most of Asia and Australia, you probably are going to have the chance to pick that up. So I figured that sucks. I like collector's sets. I like Hitman, but this makes me angry. I got to assume it's going to come here eventually, but at least not upon the initial announcement. So I want to know, love it or leave it, Tarkoth, the Hitman series.
I'm going to leave it because it just doesn't strike a chord with me. I've never played a game. I think I own one. For what reason, I have no idea. It doesn't interest me one bit. So that trash pile you were talking about, it can go over there, and I don't care.
Ooh. I'm going to go with love it. Love it, love it, love it. I love the Hitman series. Was not a fan of the episodic release thing, and I think that failed in spectacular enough a fashion that we won't be doing that anymore, but not spectacularly enough that the series got canceled. So I'm very happy with that. I am very much a love it Hitman series on this. So now we go to the deciding vote. Adam Lane.
I mean, yeah, I'm a grumpy old man, so yeah, I'm leaving it as well. There was a point in time where I used to really enjoy Hitman. I feel like back when I was playing Splinter Cell and games like that too, I really did enjoy some stuff, and then it just kind of faded. And I feel like it lost popularity overall, just in general. I'm not really sure what happened. They kept trying to support it, and yeah, I don't really see myself buying any future Hitman games unless I see something really amazing. So I'm kind of in the leave it category right now.
Well, gentlemen, I do have to say it's been an absolute pleasure hosting this show with you. Next week, gang, it'll be a solo show because these two knuckleheads don't work here anymore. It'll be a solo show. We'll talk about Final Fantasy.
I object, Your Honor.
Hours. Faye, if you want to get on camera here so we can go ahead and get ready to sign off here. Hey,
sure, let's do this.
You got to move your little.
Right.
There you go.
I gotta get it. Hey, hello, friends.
Hey, so Faye Death, you are the lucky one streaming after the Relic Grind. For those of you that don't make it over to our Twitch channel, please do. We've got not just 3 shows on the channel like this one, Snowbound and Gaming Gumbo, which airs for the first time this Saturday at 7 p.m., by the way. We also have a number of streamers that stream all manners of content, just like a TV channel at certain times. It's very easy to find your favorites and learn about new ones. Faye, you weren't able to do it last week. You had some unfortunate power issues, but you are back this week.
Thanks, Ada.
What are we streaming this week?
We are going to try to redo my spooky plans for last week. We've got mood lighting and everything, and we are going to be running some Amnesia, The Dark Descent.
Going with the original.
I am. I have had that game in my library since 2011. I've apparently played 7 minutes of it according to Steam. So we are going to scare the expletives out of me.
Chat, you are welcome to stay. We encourage you to stay and watch Faye stream some of that. And for those of you watching this on YouTube, come join us live when we're doing the show, or just come check out the channel and all the streamers. Faye, we'll turn it over to you in just a few minutes. Before we sign off, Kronos, and see everybody next week, where can everybody find you until then?
Yeah, usual spots, Twitter handles below. Feel free to follow me if you want to listen to me spew nonsense.
You've been streaming personally a lot lately, too.
I have, yeah. So twitch.tv/RVA Chronos is where I've been streaming. If you want to watch me suck at Street Fighter and Final Fantasy XIV, feel free. So yeah, that's where you can
Sticks being a gentleman, as always, putting all the links in chat. Tarkoth, where can we find you, my friend?
Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, all at Tarkoth Gaming. You can watch me stream Final Fantasy XIV, where I wipe to Ultimate constantly without a single win, and I'm so sad, and hopefully we get it done this week. And then you also check me out here at Ready Check Radio on Saturday and Sunday, where I'm doing Dragon Quest XI.
Fantastic. Gang, thank you so much for joining us for the live show. Hope those of you watching on YouTube or listening on Spotify will come by, follow, do all that stuff. But more importantly, share. Come and join us. Until next week, I'm Mike Byrne saying stay safe. We'll see you out on those servers.